Grant Field as we get ready to bring you Georgia Tech taking on Clemson. Gary Sparber with Roman Gabriel. You know, Roman, you can block, you can tackle, you can execute most of the fundamentals of football well, but if you fumble away the football, as Clemson did last week against Georgia, you can have some problems.
Well, Gary, that's probably one of the things that really tries a coach's patience. And I know that Danny Ford, with his team turning the ball over 5 times on fumbles last week, he had those guys working on ball drills, whatever he could to get them to hold on to it. So I would imagine when they come to the park today, they're going to be very well prepared to hold on to that football.
Clemson did move the ball awfully well last week against Georgia, so they won despite the turnovers. But we talked to Danny Ford yesterday about how concerned he was about those turnovers reoccurring today.
If we take care of the football, in both football games we made mistakes, that we will be able to compete with them. But you know, the turf is new to us, falling on it, the ball bounce is different. You can make a lot of excuses before the game even starts of what may happen, but the ball's the same, it's got the same amount of air in it and all that, so we should be able to hold on the football. There's no excuse to have an error.
Now, if Clemson has had a problem with turnovers, well, Georgia Tech last week had a problem with penalties, 10 of them against Virginia, and Virginia had none. That is something Bill Curry wants his team to look out for.
Well, it sure is, because when you can take the ball away 8 times the way Georgia Tech did against Virginia, but then all of a sudden you have penalties, 10 of them they had in that ball game. He had a set of officials come in on Tuesday, work their practice, and hopefully he thinks it's going to pay off for him.
Now, over the past 2 years, Georgia Tech has been the least penalized team in the ACC, so Bill Curry thinks things will get better.
I expect immediate and drastic improvement. We've been among the least penalized teams anywhere the last 3 years, and that's a big part of our thinking, and that we'll return to that. We were just careless with our hands last week.
It is an outstanding rivalry between these two teams, Roman. Georgia Tech has certainly had the better of it here, but you know what kind of game it's going to be. It's a cliche, but a hard-hitting game.
Anytime you put 2 teams like this together, there's going to be some hard-hitting, ferocious people out there. Regardless of what the heat's like, they're still going to hit people.
And Georgia Tech's all-ACC candidate wide receiver Gary Lee told us yesterday just what kind of a game he expected.
Clemson has to throw out all your finesse against them and everything. It's just going to be a physical game, and it's just going to be just a war out here on the field. And that's just how you have to play Clemson. That's how we played them the last few years. We've beaten them, and we're just going to go down and try to buckle it up and hit them head on.
Gary Lee, 6'2", 199 pounds, runs a 4.5 40. In fact, Gil Grant of the Cowboys is here to look at him play today. And now we're set up for the AC Delco starting lineups. The starting offense for the Clemson Tigers. Ty Granger at tackle, number 71. Pat Williams alongside of him, the left guard. Jeff Bach, the center, number 60. John Phillips, Spruce Pines, North Carolina at right guard. Frank DeUlius, tackle, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Jerome Williams, the tight end. Ray Williams getting his first start, split in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Terrence Rulak, senior flanker, Jacksonville, Florida. Tracy Johnson, sophomore fullback. Terrence Flagler, tailback, senior. Rodney Williams, sophomore quarterback, a good one. And here's the Georgia Tech defense. Paul Jurgensen, defensive end, Georgia. Kyle Ambrose, tackle, out of New Jersey. Travis Moody, the nose guard. Steve Mullen, he gets his first start at defensive end today. Mark White, linebacker, Pennsylvania. Kevin Salisbury, a fine linebacker. Willis Crockett, the bandit. Andre Thomas, rover from Warner Robins, Georgia. Reginald Rutland, cornerback. Cedric Stallworth, sophomore cornerback out of Decatur, Georgia. Anthony Harrison, free safety. He rounds out this group of fine ball players. Well, that's our AC Delco starting lineup for this afternoon. Remember, start your car with an AC Delco Freedom battery and Surefire AC spark plug. We'll be back to Grant Field in Atlanta for more after these messages.
We're back live at Grant Field in Atlanta, Georgia, where we're getting ready to kick off one of the more important games of the early ACC season. It's Georgia Tech and Clemson coming up. When you talk about the top young coaches in college football, you have to include Clemson's Danny Ford. Already with a national championship under his belt, Ford boasts the 7th best winning percentage among active coaches. Ford played for the legendary Bear Bryant at Alabama, where he excelled both on the field and in the classroom. At Clemson, he's asked to live up to another legend, the great Tiger coach Frank Howard, who established Clemson football prominence in his 30-year Tiger career. Ford has combined some outstanding recruiting with rock-hard defense and high-percentage offense to form a perennial ACC contender that has Clemson fans excited. Another of the premier young coaches patrols the sidelines at Georgia Tech. Now in his 7th season, Bill Curry has rebuilt a dormant program at the school where he himself was an outstanding offensive lineman. And like Ford, Curry gained invaluable knowledge and experience playing for one of the great coaches of the modern era in Bobby Dodd. Dodd was the man who put Georgia Tech football on the championship mat in 22 stellar campaigns. Unbeaten in its last 8 games, Bill Curry has the Georgia Tech program back near the top. Bill Curry and Danny Ford, 2 of the best young coaches in America. Now they go head-to-head. Today, it's the Nissan Game of the Week as Clemson meets Georgia Tech.
Jefferson Pilot Teleproductions presents exclusive live coverage of Atlantic Coast Conference football. Today, live from Grant Field in Atlanta, it's the Clemson Tigers versus the Ramblin' Wreck of Georgia Tech. Brought to you by the Jefferson Pilot Company, helping to put a brighter face on the future. Delta, the airline of ACC country. Delta gets you there. Poland, America's chainsaw. First Wachovia, serving the financial needs of individuals and businesses in the Southeast and the nation. Nissan and your local Nissan dealer, offering low financing on new Nissan trucks.
Well, anybody who is here at Grant Field today will tell you it is hot. You see it there, 89 degrees. The humidity up there, 79%. It's a sunny day, but that sun will become the enemy of some of these players here today, especially when we get into the 4th quarter and both of these ball clubs are trying to win what could be a close ball game. Well, that heat and that sunshine could really play on their nerves, and whoever deals with it better could very well be the winning team here this afternoon. There you see the Clemson Tigers, and here come the Tigers onto the field. They are in their visiting white with the orange numerals, a 1-1 record on the season. Come on, Tigers, we need you out there now. Tigers last week with that impressive offensive show against the University of Georgia. They gave up some points, gave up the big play, but they won the ball game 31-28, over 400 yards in total offense, and they were impressive. There you see Danny Ford right in the midst of the crew. And let's take it again. Here come the Clemson Tigers, and there are a lot of orange-clad fans here today. In the end zone, it's all orange, and at one side of the field, about a third of the stands all orange. Clemson will have their supporters, as they always do, when they take to the road. And here they are, taking the field at Grant Field in Atlanta, and Danny Ford leading them on. There's just part of that Clemson gathering. And now we take a look at the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. They will be taking the field momentarily. You see the signs, shake 'em up jackets, and the Yellow Jackets, they were shook up themselves a couple of weeks ago by Furman. They tied that ball game, but then a big victory over Virginia for them last week, 28-14, and there's Georgia Tech as they take the field here at Grant Field. And their coach, Bill Curry, who's done such a great job here in Atlanta. Hi again, everybody. Gary Sparber along with Roman Gabriel. Roman, it is hot. It's hot up here. It's hot down there. That's got to be a big factor in this game today.
Gary, who told you it's hot? Look at you, look at me. We're up here where it's a little shady. Down there on that field, it's probably going to be 100 degrees or more with that AstroTurf. I'm sure that both teams probably gave their players a lot of fruit for that potassium and magnesium and calcium. But yet at the same time, Clemson is big and strong. Georgia Tech is lean and mean, so they might have a better chance in the heat than the big, strong guys.
And that artificial turf down on the field is going to make it even tougher as far as the heat is concerned. We're getting set for the kickoff. An important early season game. Clemson and Georgia Tech will be back. Off Georgia Tech and Clemson. And Georgia Tech won the toss. They deferred their option until the second half. Clemson then said, we will take the football. And so there you see sophomore Thomas Palmer, who will kick it off for Georgia Tech. And to the far side, the left of your screen, that's Terrence Rulak. To the near side, that is Steve Griffin out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Palmer moves forward, and we are underway with a very important early season ACC game. Now 3 yards deep in the end zone, and Rulak says, I'll try it. He is in great shape. 35, gets by the kicker. Palmer at midfield. One man to beat. Now if he can get a block, he may score. Rulak finally pushed out of bounds inside the 10-yard line. Well, you cannot start Roman Gabriel a whole lot better than that.
All right, we got a nice setup here. Terrence Rulak is averaging 22 yards per kick return. Nice wall set up on the right side by the Tigers. Here we get a block on Palmer, the kicker. Rulak, well, not a block. Rulak just shaded him. But number 83, or is that 86 for Georgia Tech? Alfonso, I believe it was, made one heck of a play. 83 right there on the sidelines. What a great effort, but Clemson in great field position, Gary Sparber.
One of the guys who made an early block, one of the best blockers on the team, the fullback Tracy Johnson. Very early, he sprung it for Rulak. Johnson and his running mate at fullback, Lancaster, are about as good a tandem in blocking at fullback in the ACC. There you see Johnson will start at fullback, Rodney Williams the quarterback, and Flagler led the team in both receiving yardage and rushing yardage last week against Georgia. Veteran receivers, Williams and Rulak. The offensive line, John Phillips, the right guard. He's the All-ACC and All-American candidate. They run behind him. And Jerome Williams starting in front of Jim Riggs, a tight end, although they'll play about 50-50 as far as percent of the time.
Well, Gary, you can bank on one thing. Clemson runs the football, will line up in the I formation. They're averaging right around 247 yards per game on the ground. Georgia Tech's given up about 193. So you know what Danny Ford's got in mind. Run that football.
They're going to say that he stepped out of bounds, talking about Rulak on the kickoff return back at the 19-yard line. So it'll be 1st and 10 for the Tigers from there. They did a great job of moving the football against Georgia last week. Their only problem was, as the coaches say, putting the football on the ground. And Georgia Tech punched it out of Virginia ball carriers 6 times last week. And there's Bill Curry. He's hoping his Yellow Jackets can do that today. Here come the Tigers up to the line. In the eye. There's Rodney Williams out of Irmo, South Carolina, just outside of Columbia. The pitch to Flagler. And Flagler dances to the 13-yard line. Kevin Salisbury, the inside linebacker for Georgia Tech, a redshirt freshman out of Norcross, Georgia, on the stop. There's your Georgia Tech defense. Jurgensen and Ambrose are the only ones with experience on that front line. The linebackers, they have big shoes to fill, with Ted Roof graduating last year with a group that they had on the Black Watch defense. Anthony Harrison, an excellent one at the free safety. Here they come on 2nd down from the 13. Jim Riggs now in the ballgame at tight end. They give it straight ahead, and Tracy Johnson got inside the 10 and down to about the 8-yard line.
All we had there from the Clemson offense was a double tight end situation. That's what you call your pounded in offense. Tracy Johnson, the sophomore fullback that you mentioned earlier, he is a load if he gets to carry that football. Straight dive right up off the guard center, and he took it down for the 1st down.
Georgia Tech has had a problem between the tackles defensively stopping the run, and that's where Clemson really likes to operate. This time they pitch it to Flagler. Flagler cuts it inside to the 4. Cedric Stallworth, the cornerback, made the stop. And those tight ends, both Riggs and Jerome Williams for Clemson, do a good job on the seal blocks to make that sweep go.
All right, here's the toss out of the eye. Tracy Johnson was leading. Flagler might have gone outside a little bit too much, so it could have been a better play if he had taken off tackle rather than around the end. Cedric Hartman, the sophomore, or Cedric Stallworth, made the tackle.
Nonetheless, a good gain to the 4-yard line. 2nd down and goal as Rodney Williams has them up at the line. This is Tracy Johnson, the fullback, to the goal line, and just to the goal line. It will be 3rd and goal. Kevin Salisbury again.
That's an interesting play to put Tracy Johnson up the middle, because we got a good shot here, just a straight man blocking up front. Johnson coming over the linebackers, because there's a little bit of a softness there with those 2 backers of Georgia Tech lined up off the ball.
Clemson set up shop at the 19 of Georgia Tech after a Rulak kickoff return. Now we're at 3rd and goal just outside the goal line. That is Lancaster in motion. Johnson goes behind him for a touchdown. And that is what Clemson does in short yardage time after after time. They put one fullback in motion, they run behind them with the other, and you got yourself a 6-0 Clemson lead.
You can certainly count on it, Gary. And last week against Georgia, the tailbacks carried the burden. So what Danny Ford do in this ball game? He thinks they're going to key on the tailback. He starts going with the fullback.
We'll get our first look here at David Treadwell. All this guy did last week was kick a 46-yard field goal on the final play of the game to beat Georgia. Todd Schonar will hold, looking to add point number 7. That one's right through there. So the kickoff returned by Terrence Rulak, and then Clemson goes to what they do best, the running play.
There we coming off the left side, off the right side. Tracy Johnson, number 42. Tremendous effort, but great line play. There's number 49, Johnson, leading the way. He was in motion from left to right.
Boy, one thing Clemson does well is block, and that's why Gary Lee told you earlier it was a tough football game coming. We'll be back right after this. Clemson has struck quickly, and there's the man who scored the touchdown, Tracy Johnson. He's also the man who laid on the block that sprung Terrence Rulak on the kickoff return, so he's had a big early roll. Didn't take long, obviously. 2:17 all on the ground, 19 yards, and it's 7-0 for Clemson. Rusty Sile performs the kickoff duties for the Tigers. David Treadwell works on the field goals and placements. Dangerous tandem back to receive the kicker, Sile, as you look at Gary Lee to the right of your screen and Corey Collier to the left. This will be Lee, takes it at the 19-yard line right into the pack. He really had nowhere to go. Since it was a short kick, Georgia Tech comes out of it with pretty decent field position around the 31-yard line. Richard Smith in on the tackle for Clemson.
Well, so often, even on a short kick, it prevents the receiving team, Gary, from making any yardage because now the coverage team gets down so fast, and in that case, that's what happened. Well, we got a little bump in there. We got a little of the shake and bake, you might say. They get to the wedge too quick. There's not enough separation. Another reason why they didn't get a whole lot of yardage in this return.
Corey Collier and Nate Kelsey are behind the quarterback, Rick Straub. On first down for Georgia Tech, their initial possession, and they trail 7-0. Straub will throw. And he's got a man up to about the 40-yard line. 9-yard gain, Gary Lee and Delton Hall in on the stop as we look at the Georgia Tech offense. Strom, your quarterback. Collier and Kelsey, who had a great game last week, over 100 yards against Virginia. Gary Lee, the All-ACC wide receiver. Tyrone Sorrell's a transfer from University of Georgia, of all places, and a former tight end. And John Davis, the All-American candidate, Outland Trophy and Lombardi Trophy candidate as well.
In a situation like this, you might think, go for the long one, but it's too early in the game. I believe they'll stay on the ground here. Go to the fullback.
Second down and 1 from the 40. They fake a couple of gives. Strom will throw, gets a block, and throws it. It's picked off by Delton Hall. Hall at the 42-yard line. Didn't really have to do a whole lot but catch the football. Mitch Waters, the offensive right tackle, made the stop on Delton Hall, but Strom simply gave him the interception.
Well, it's a little early in the game. Let's take a look here as we come downfield. A good pass by Strom. We would have had a first down. We got both guys. They're both open, but what happens early in the game, the quarterback's not quite ready to throw that pass, and as a result, he throws it right to the linebacker for an interception. Here's the shot here. He's on the move. Really doesn't work upfield to get his shoulder to the target, and we get an interception. Clemson right back into battle.
Chris Lancaster is in at fullback now, and it is Lancaster who gets the football and pounds up ahead for about 5 yards before Rod Stevens made the stop. He's a linebacker, but he's a load to bring down. Lancaster is. There's Delton Hall.
Gary, they're testing a freshman tackle in there, Travis Moody, number 75 for Georgia Tech. So they're going right at what they think might be a weakness in the Tech defense.
It's a very young defensive front for Georgia Tech. We'll be talking a lot more about that as the afternoon goes along. Flagler behind Lancaster, and of course the quarterback, Rodney Williams. That is Ray Williams, the veteran receiver in motion. Flagler right up the middle and pulled down by Rod Stevens, but Flagler got first down yardage to the 30.
This is a formation that Clemson will utilize quite often. They'll bring 3 receivers in, give the defense that you're going to run the football or going to pass the ball, but they stick mostly to the ground, and why not? They're moving it real well.
The Tigers have hit Georgia Tech with a couple of big plays early. A return on the opening kickoff by Terrence Rulak, and then the interception by Delton Hall. And there you saw the stats for Terrence Flagler, who is in place of Kenny Flagler at the tailback spot, although Flagler is healthy, and we will see him today. First and 10 for Clemson, just outside the Georgia Tech 30. Clemson doesn't get much. About a yard or two. Andre Thomas, the rover back up from the secondary, made the stop, and a flag is down. Our first penalty of the game. Be interesting as well. I was going to say it'd be interesting to see if it was against Georgia Tech, since they had so many problems with it last week, but this one goes against the Tigers. And Georgia Tech has a little bit of a decision to make here. Do you like second down and 9 or 10, or do you set them back to 5 yards?
I think the way Clemson's been moving the football, I'd set them back about 5 or 10 yards.
Well, that is what Georgia Tech's defense is trying to decide right now, probably getting some prompting from Bill Curry on the sideline. Georgia Tech's defensive coaches, and we'll get the call first.
Illegal procedure on the offense, 6 men on the line.
There are the officials, Donald Safrit, who made the call right there, and the rest of the crew. I was about to say, Georgia Tech's defensive players, they're young, and so some of them are over-aggressive, and some of them are assignment players afraid to become aggressive. At least that's what their defensive coordinator told us earlier in the week. We'll talk more about that. First down and 15. Rodney Williams to throw for the first time. Out of the backfield, Lancaster running free at the 20-yard line and down to the 15. Cedric Stallworth and Mark White combined on the stop, but Clemson getting the play out of the backfield. They've been going a lot more to their fullback this year than in the past.
Gary, fine play, but they've got a penalty here. Actually, it's just what we call a delay. There's Johnson. Lancaster delays inside, lets the linebackers get depth, and then they dump it off to him, but we got a penalty on Clemson.
20-yard play will be for naught because of the penalty. There you saw Mark White, defensive linebacker for Georgia Tech, talking with one of the officials, and Danny Ford not happy with the penalties he's seen here on this drive. Clemson operating in reverse, and now we'll get the call.
Holding, offense, first down.
They have to get all the way to the 21-yard line, so it will be first down and 24. That's a lot of artificial turf to pick up.
And in most cases, Clemson will treat this situation like a running situation because that's their ball game.
Ricardo Hooper, the man in motion. They give it to Flagler. Flagler makes a nice cut inside and gets to the 35-yard line. Rod Stevens on the stop. Bit of instinctive running there by Flagler. Saw the opening inside and got about 5 extra yards.
Clemson lined up with the 3 wide receivers in the game and then just ran what we call here's a sprint draw. Rodney Williams takes the ball back. Big opening there. Look at Bach. He's trying to get in front of the play. 10 yards on the play. Nice call by Danny Ford's coaching staff.
Flagler already with 4 carries for 24 yards. Now it's a lot more makeable. Second down and about 15 yards to go. Sophomore quarterback Rodney Williams. That's Flagler in motion behind him. Williams to throw. Quickly to Flagler at the 25. Cuts to the 21, and he'll be very close to the first down. Anthony Harrison, a free safety, and Rod Stevens, whose name we have called on just about every play of this series.
We got another penalty here, Gary, and it's going to go on Clemson. I believe the slot man in motion might have turned upfield a little bit too quickly.
Perhaps the same crew of officials that worked at Georgia Tech practice earlier this week will be at Tiger Town this coming Tuesday or Wednesday.
That's true.
Tigers are moving the ball well, but they continually set themselves back with penalties on this drive. If you just joined us, they lead 7-0. 1-yard run by Tracy Johnson.
Hey, Danny Ford's not too happy.
Illegal procedure on the offense, still second down.
Well, we are back now to second down and about 20. And you see there that the miscues, the flags, have hurt Clemson. So we try again for the Tigers. Terrence Rulak, very dangerous in motion. Williams to roll. Throws it down low, and that was a one-hopper for Keith Jennings. Keith Jennings, the possession-type receiver out of Summerville, South Carolina, fielded out like a second baseman, but unfortunately in football, that doesn't work. So it will be third down and a long way to go.
Clemson actually ended up in a 3-receiver set by bringing motion to the strong side or right side of the formation. They had Jennings open. Ball was just a little underthrown.
Well, this is not a situation any offense likes to be in. Third down and just about 20 yards to go. Williams will throw, has pressure, throws over the middle, and Flagler had not yet turned around, and the pass was thrown behind him. Flagler just in the process of turning around, and there was pressure from Kyle Ambrose, who is one of the few experienced people on that Georgia Tech defensive front.
Cal Ambrose has 16 tackles to date in 2 ball games. Nice poise, though, on Rodney Williams' part. He could have thrown an interception, but he knew what he was doing with the football. Get rid of it before taking the sack.
Well, if you've seen Clemson this year, you know the story about the punter, Bill Spire, Bill Shortstop. They put the ad in the one ads in the Clemson newspaper. Spires answered it, and he's the punter. Cedric Stallworth back to receive. Georgia Tech has not returned a punt this season in 2 games. Spires, they will not return this one, and they will get a touchback out of it. So it's a 40-yard punt, but really only 20 net yards with the touchback. It is 7-0. Clemson on top. They scored on their opening drive, and we'll be back with more ACC football after this for your local ACC station. The announcers for this game are selected and compensated by Jefferson Pilot Teleproductions. This broadcast is a copyright presentation. Any use of this broadcast without the express permission of Jefferson Pilot Teleproductions is prohibited. You saw the score in time. 7-0 Clemson. 8:44 to go, first period. Georgia Tech starts from the 20, and there's not a whole lot there. We'll wait and see as they unpile on the carry. It was Malcolm King, and the tackle made by Henry Carter. King, who has had a back problem and has been out for most of the season, carried the ball once in their opener against Furman, and there he was for his second carry.
Have you ever seen, though, a picture-perfect tackle by an inside linebacker? Carter came up, put his face in the numbers, and smacked the ball carrier to the ground.
Jerry Mays is the tailback. Malcolm King, the fullback, and Rick Strom, the quarterback. 7-0 Clemson. The pitch to Mays. He's got a convoy in front of him and gets across the 25-yard line. Again, Henry Carter was in on the stop. Jerry Mays, who was the ACC Rookie of the Year last year. As we look at the Clemson defense, Terrence Mack, a lot of the pro scouts like him. Raymond Chavis, highly recruited player. Stevens and Meadows. Linebackers, there's some speed there with Haynes and Earl. And a lot of speed in the secondary, but they have given up the big play early in the season, something they've got to watch out for. Here's a 3rd down and 6 for Georgia Tech from their 24-yard line. The only back left in the block is Malcolm King. That's Jerry Mays in motion. Strom will try to pick it up through the air. And it's almost intercepted by Terrence Mack. And Strom's going to have to be a bit more careful about where he puts that football.
They were trying to flood the left side by taking... Oh, we got us another penalty here. Looks like it's in the backfield of Georgia Tech.
Now this will be declined because it was 3rd down.
3rd down.
Now that's our first penalty on Georgia Tech. We've had a lot of flags here early.
Yeah, already Clemson's had 3, I believe, and Georgia Tech's got 1. There's 4.
Holding. Offense declined. 4th down.
So Clemson will get the football back, and they should get it in pretty good field position. Sean McDivitt, and would you believe he, too, is a former baseball player. Cut by the Georgia Tech baseball team. Not a bad average for a baseball player anyway. There's Donnell Wolford with great speed, waiting for it back at his 36-yard line. McDivitt doesn't have pressure. Kicks a floater. Wolford will let it fall. Goes right to the sideline, and Clemson will have it at its 38-yard line. So the Tigers will set up shop in pretty good field position, leading 7-0.
That's what the Clemson Tigers have been able to do thus far in this first quarter. Take the ball in good field position.
That was a 38-yard kick for Sean McDivitt with no return. It's 7-0. Clemson on top of Georgia Tech, and we'll be back after. Clemson has the lead here, 7-0 over Georgia Tech. If you look at Bill Curry, the head coach of the Yellow Jackets. And another score, Pittsburgh on top of West Virginia, 14-3. Here are the Tigers at their 38-yard line. Tracy Johnson and Kenny Flowers now in the ballgame at tailback. Now make it Steve Griffin as they give it to the fullback. No! Rodney Williams keeps it and drives back the attempted tackler to the 48-yard line. Good power by the quarterback. And the tackle on John Porter, the inside linebacker from Valdosta, Georgia.
All right, we got the veer option out of the eye. He puts the ball into the fullback, takes it on outside, and does make a little headway. Nice play there by the defensive person for Georgia Tech.
And we have got still another penalty flag thrown against the Clemson Tigers. You know, I just naturally assumed when I saw another tailback in the Clemson backfield that it was going to be Kenny Flowers. Well, I don't know if Flowers is hurt or what.
I agree with you. And the way this game's going, we might not see any fumbles, interceptions, but we're going to see a lot of penalties.
Well, we've certainly seen them so far. We've had more penalties, it seems, than anything else. This is a big one against Clemson.
The dead ball, flipping, offense, first down.
You heard the call, the clip against the Tigers. And there's Kenny Flowers on the sideline. Next to him, Terrence Blackburn, Steve Griffin, who was considered a tremendous prospect out of Charlotte, North Carolina, but hasn't gotten much chance to play in his career here at Clemson. Second down and 15. The two wide receivers, and now Jennings coming in motion to the near side. This is Griffin. Didn't have much room at all. Kyle Ambrose, the defensive tackle, was in on it, and so was John Porter.
You can only fool a defense so long. Clemson again with long yardage brings the three wideouts in, but they run, which is their tendency. Here's the play, really an off-tackle slant play. Look at that hit there put on by, who is that fellow there? I think that's Kyle Ambrose, the only senior up there on the front line.
So third down and 15 for Clemson. They lead 7-0. They have it at their 33. Rodney Williams off play action, has plenty of time, shoots it over the middle, and he's got Ray Williams, a jarring hit in the secondary by Reggie Rutland. But he's able to hang on, and a nice catch there by the veteran Ray Williams.
Oh, Ray Williams, who had... All right, it's play action again off the same run a while ago, off the slant. Real nice protection. Ray Williams, who had hip surgery in August, doesn't look like it's bothering. Let's take a look now at this sophomore line by the Tigers. There's Bach, the center, looking to pick up. Real fine protection, using the hands well, but not holding.
They get the first down at the 46 of Georgia Tech, leading 7-0, and Rodney Williams has the Tigers moving. If they can avoid the penalty flags, they're in pretty good shape. Steve Griffin this time has a little bit of running room. Rod Stevens, the linebacker, brought him down. The play was turned inside by Kyle Ambrose, the defensive tackle.
Clemson is going to be hard to handle as they continue the season. 4 sophomores on that offensive line, and they're already beginning to develop after only 2.5 ball games.
On first down, Clemson has run the ball 7 times. They have yet to throw it. They got 5 yards on that play. They have second down and 5. Tracy Johnson in front of Steve Griffin. Ricardo Hooper in motion. Williams rolls out and throws a nice pass to about the 33-yard line. Terrence Rulak, the receiver, and Ricardo Ingram on the tackle.
Clemson probably does this as well as anybody. Rodney Williams, a sophomore quarterback, sprints out right side. Terrence Rulak finds the hole. Good hit in there by Ricardo Ingram, but Terrence Rulak, with that timing, he makes the catch.
Ricardo Ingram, the only returnee from the Black Watch, which is no more at Georgia Tech, at least not until they get some experience with these defenders. They won't call it the Black Watch. First and 10 for the Tigers, 33-yard line of Georgia Tech. The fullback Tracy Johnson burst through the hole, and really there wasn't much of a hole. He burst through a bunch of Georgia Tech tacklers and got a good gain on the play.
A dive off the right side to the fullback once again, Jeff Bach and John Phillips. Take a look now at that offensive line. Jeff Bach and John Phillips, the center and right guard. Anybody can run when you got that kind of play. It was number 58, Rod Stevens, making the tackle from his linebacking spot.
Second down and 4, 26-yard line of Georgia Tech. Clemson leads 7-0. The pitch to Griffin gets a good block from Johnson, runs right over it to the 20 and down to the 17-yard line. And the fullbacks, we've talked about it so many times with Clemson. Cedric Stallworth on the tackle. The fullbacks for Clemson, they lead the play big time.
They are big, tough, and strong people, and only sophomores. A key block here is the tight end. The Riggs goes outside here and hits the corner. We don't see it on the screen, but boy, what a block he had there. Just fine all-around play by the Clemson offensive line. What more can you say?
Just another first down for the Tigers at the 17-yard line. Clemson now has run on all 5 of its first down plays. This is Tracy Johnson again. No, the pitch out this time. Griffin, and Griffin gets out of bounds at the 9-yard line. He was driven out by George Malone, Grover out of Triana, Alabama. Nice play fake, at least it fooled me. Rodney Williams, the quarterback, and Steve Griffin on the run.
He's going to come outside now, put the ball in the fullback's tummy, and then pitch it out right side.
Well, I feel better now because he fooled the cameraman along with me.
That was a great play.
Second down, very short yardage, a little bit more than a yard. They can do just about anything they like right here, and what they like is to get it straight ahead to Johnson, and he is right around where he needed to be to get the first down. Sean Smith made the stop. This guy who's running all these pitches, Steve Griffin, the tailback for Clemson, coming out of high school was a very highly touted player. The problem was he came to Clemson the same year as Stacy Driver and Kenny Flowers and Terrence Flagler and got lost in the shuffle. They moved him to defensive back last year, didn't get to play much there. And for a senior campaign, they put him back at tailback, and finally he's getting a little chance to show what he can do.
When you have that much depth, sometimes the heat doesn't bother you as much because you got a new guy coming into play all the time.
Well, that's the truth. Third down, less than a yard. And there's Johnson for the first down. No problem. Sean Smith on the stop, but not before they got the first down. You talk about depth. We're coming down the end of the first quarter. They've used 2 tailbacks, and they've got Kenny Flowers, a Heisman Trophy candidate, supposedly on the bench.
Here we go. They're going to come after that right side again behind Jeff Bach and John Phillips. Frank DeUlius doing a great job, that line. They must have found a weakness, and this is what they prepared for because they've been hitting that fullback to the right side all game long.
As we mentioned earlier, Georgia Tech has not been able to stop the inside run so far this year. First down inside the 6. Griffin trying to pull the tackler toward the goal line. He got to the 2, and Rod Stevens, who's made a bevy of tackles in the first quarter, helped to bring him down.
Good thing Rod Stevens was there because Griffin really makes a nice cut here. He almost goes into the end zone. Rod Stevens comes over, gets an arm on him, and then gets the shoulder pads into him. Good play by the defense of Georgia Tech.
Second down goal from the 2, and Georgia Tech's defense being asked to stop Clemson in a very tough situation here. Just 2 yards to go, and Clemson has 3 downs if they want to do it.
Watch the quarterback coming outside on the option here.
That's Lancaster in motion. They'll go right behind him, and Tracy Johnson got to the goal line. So it will be third down, and I think less than a yard. In fact, where they're putting it down, a lot less than a yard.
Actually, they do have it set up because Williams gave the ball to Johnson. He came outside. There was only one guy to stop that option play with the cornerback. So Williams could have kept it out, either one.
Third down, inches for a Clemson touchdown. The Tigers already lead 7-0. Quarterback sneak, maybe, Gary. There's Jennings in motion. They give it to Johnson, and Johnson is over for a touchdown. 13-0 Clemson.
They're going to wear that right side out.
The fullbacks have been the stars so far for Clemson, Johnson and Lancaster.
Well, this is what happens so often when you feature the tailback out of the eye in one game and the fullback is only the blocker. It's smart to come into this ball game thinking they're going to key on the tailback.
Todd Schonar will hold. David Treadwell will attempt the extra point. We have 2:11 remaining in the first period. This is to make it 14-0. And that is where we are.
Well, why not go to the well? Motion by the tight end left side. We go to Tracy Johnson off the right side once again, and he's into the end zone. Steve Griffin.
Did you say the whale? Did you say the whale?
It might have.
Oh, all right. All right. Tracy Johnson may have taken this game. 2:11 to go, and we'll be back. 14-0. Clemson on top of Georgia Tech. A couple of straight fullback dives in the first quarter. And the Tigers with 2 interceptions already and a long kickoff returner in good shape. 86 rushing yards for the Tigers in the first quarter. 4 yards for Georgia Tech. Rusty Sile will kick off there. You see him. Out of Savannah, Georgia. Gary Lee to the near side. Corey Collier to the far side. Or the right side of your screen as you saw it. Gary Lee awaits it at the 1. Not even going to get back to the 20-yard line. Richard Smith out of Sparta, Georgia, made the tackle. Well, Roman, we didn't need to see that to know it was hot. 88 degrees.
Well, look here, Gary. Time of possession, Clemson 11:03. They've had the ball. Georgia Tech 1:46. So you might say Clemson's a little bit hotter than Georgia Tech.
You might say Georgia Tech's defense is going to be kind of warm in the fourth quarter if they stay out there. 18-yard line. First down for the Yellow Jackets, who need to give their defense a rest and move the football at the same time. The quarterback, Strom, still has it, and he got only to the 19-yard line. Henry Carter, the middle linebacker, made the stop.
Well, Georgia Tech popping out to the left side, put the ball in the fullback's stomach, trying to get outside on the option play, but Henry Carter was there to the task.
They got 2, 2nd down and 8, just shy of the 20-yard line. Bill Curry has to be wondering what he has to do to get his offense moving. This is 2nd down. Nate Kelsey, the fullback, starts movement, and he will lead the play for Corey Collier. And Collier is really stood up at the 28-yard line. I think that was James Earl. Nope, it was Gene Beasley coming up from the secondary.
Well, Georgia Tech put the fullback in motion to get an angle for the fullback to block here as they toss the ball right side. You're talking about pursuit. The weather's not bothering the Tigers. They're all over that football.
Here's a big play for Georgia Tech early in the game. 3rd down, and they need about 3. Under a minute to go, first quarter, as Strom drops to throw a quick pass, and he simply missed Gary Lee. And had he thrown it to Gary Lee, well, A.J. Johnson might have been in as good shape to intercept the ball as Lee would have been to catch it.
A.J. Johnson played Strom's eyes. Whenever you visualize the field, you have what we call a focal point. And Strom looked the whole time to Lewis, so A.J. moved right out underneath it. Strom's got to relax a little bit. He's a little shaken right now.
Sean McDivitt will punt the ball to Donnell Wolford. Better kick this time. Wolford at his 35. Tripped up at the 40 by number 74, Pat James, a guard out of Longwood, Florida, and a sophomore. So the Tigers, already leading 14-0, will get the football in good shape at their 41.
Let's look for more of the same. Gary attacking the right side. We might now possibly see the Clemson Tigers give us a fake action to the fullback and maybe pitch back out to the tailback going left or right around the end.
But certainly Danny Ford will make them prove they can stop the power run before they abandon it.
You better believe it.
First down for the Tigers from their 41. Williams throws it over the middle. He gets it to number 89. Dan Pearman, I believe. Or was it Jim Riggs, the tight end? Jim Riggs, excuse me, made the tackle up close to midfield.
Jim Riggs just held in, pushed into the linebacker. Oh, we get a good look at this now. A little fake the pitch going right side. Great call. And Riggs stands up, works out to the left flat. He's the senior tight end. Makes a great play there. He's finally knocked down by Mike Zimmerman, the Bandit.
2nd down and short yardage. Terrence Flagler gets into Georgia Tech territory and goes out at the 46 with a first down. Don Wilson ran him out, but not before the Tigers got still another first down.
After moving the football so well on the ground, all of a sudden Clemson sneaks in a pass on you, and then they come back to that running attack. You just don't know what they're going to do.
It's not what you would really call a razzle-dazzle wild offense. They sneak in the pass. Was what, about a 4-yard pass?
You might call it a sneaky razzle-dazzle.
There you go. Still another first down for the Tigers at the 46 of Georgia Tech. We still haven't seen Kenny Flowers in the ball game. Rodney Williams to throw as the first quarter horn goes off. He shoots it out to Kenny Flagler, or Terrence Flagler, who gets it down to the 40-yard line of Georgia Tech, and they'll be shy of the first down. Mike Rosamilia up from the secondary to make the stop, number 13 for Georgia Tech. So the first quarter belongs to the Clemson Tigers. A couple of interceptions, a kickoff return, and a couple of touchdowns. It's 14-0. Clemson up on Georgia Tech. 1 period in the books, and we'll be back. Your Nissan game of the week. It's been all Clemson so far. 14-0 as we start the second quarter.
And here they are knocking on the door again. They're down in Georgia Tech territory, 42-yard line. So they're going to have it their way if they continue to get the ball here.
2nd down and 5 for Clemson. The fullback Lancaster got about a yard or 2 before he was dragged down across the line of scrimmage. Steve Mullen, the defensive end, made the stop.
He's called a striker on that defense. He either stands in a 2-point or gets down to 3-point. How you stop a play like Clemson's been successful with is just what Steve Mullen did. He came hard on the dog and got to the fullback, knocked him down for no gain, or maybe 1 yard.
Now here's a big play. Ball possession down, 3rd and 3. That is Lancaster right behind Rodney Williams, and Flagler will start in motion. Good job to hold on to the football. I thought it was Terrence Flagler that made the catch, and Don Wilson made the tackle. It is Flagler on the reception, and Clemson receivers doing a good job hanging on when they get stuck.
And Clemson doing a good job sort of revamping their offense. He sprints left, hits Flagler out in the flat for the first down. Very good play calling by the Clemson offensive staff.
Just underway, second period, 14-0 Tigers. They have got a bunch of first downs in this first half. They're at the 35-yard line. Williams 5 of 7 through the air for 47 yards. Lancaster up the middle for about a yard, and a congregation of Georgia Tech tacklers in on the stop.
Well, let's take a look here. Tech and Clemson first quarter stats. First down, Clemson 7. Tech doesn't have anything. Rushing yards 91-11 favor Clemson. Passing yards, really neither one has done that well, but Clemson is 4 out of 6 for 43 yards. Total offense 134 yards for Clemson. Tech 20 yards, Gary. Clemson all the way.
The stats tell the story. Second down, 9. The pitch out to Flagler. And Flagler is hit and then driven back. Cedric Stallworth up in the secondary is the man who drove him out of bounds. Some of the Clemson fans thought maybe a bit too vehemently. But, and there are a lot of Clemson fans here today. They will make themselves heard. Danny Ford, there you see him. I don't know what he's shaking his head about. He's got to be pretty happy about the circumstances.
One thing that Clemson's doing well, too, is that 2 plays in a row, handed the fullback and got stuffed. Came back with a sweep, and they're cutting off the linebacker play of Georgia Tech because Cedric Stallworth is a corner. The corner has to come up and make the tackle. Third down, 8.
Lancaster, the lone back, left in to protect Rodney Williams. Flagler lined up as a wing back on the left of the formation. That's he going in motion. Williams is looking at Flagler but won't have time. Rod Stevens coming through, brought him down. He wanted to shoot it out to the back, Flagler, who was in motion, but Rod Stevens didn't give him the time to do it.
They had it well covered. Clemson brought 3 receivers. They're going to bring 3 of them to the right side here because Flagler went in motion. There he is. It's Stevens, number 58, coming through. Nobody to pick him up. Nice play. Tough break for Clemson, though.
You know, Roman, the amazing thing about the offense Clemson is running, not only are they leading and controlling, but there are so many things they have set up that they haven't even tried yet.
Yeah, they've run the fullback, they've stopped the fullback, so now they're starting to give us a little different picture.
Bill Spires to kick. Cedric Stallworth awaiting the kick. Spires booms it high. Stallworth makes the fair catch call, but he's not going anywhere near this thing, and it bounces at the 4 and out of bounds. And Bill shortstop really threw one to the first baseman right on target.
And Spires got his ground rule double.
So 11:53 to go until halftime, and things are really going right for the Orange. It's Clemson 14, Georgia Tech nothing. We'll be back. Georgia Tech starting from its 4-yard line. Wouldn't be surprised to see the veteran Malcolm King carry the football here. Well, instead they pitch it out to Kelsey, and Kelsey is driven out of bounds at the 8-yard line. Terrence Mack is the man who rode him across the sideline.
Georgia Tech now down in their own end zone, once again in negative field position, trying to get outside. Watch old Cedric Mack. He's not fooled. He comes around this tight ends block, or Terrence Mack. I'm thinking Cedric Hardwell, I guess, but Terrence Mack makes a nice stop.
Really, Georgia Tech will do well if they can get out of this field position without some disaster that would make it 21-0. Second down. They've got about 6 to go. Rick Strum playing only his 3rd ball game in 4 years at quarterback. He's had some injuries to deal with. This is Corey Collier, and Collier is in the arms of Norman Haynes. He got across the 10-yard line, needed to get to the 14, so there will be a 3rd down and short yardage play coming.
There's that toss open to the left side, to the slot side and wide side of the field. And Corey Collier cuts it back up, but there's not a lot there. They're not able to cut off Scott Hensor, number 14, the line, or Norman Hayes, the linebacker.
Really, if you're going to be Clemson based on the first 2 games Clemson's played, you got to throw against them, but this is not the field position to do it from.
And the way they started out throwing the football, they haven't had a lot of success.
3rd down and 2. Georgia Tech is trying to hang on to the football. They fake it to Kelsey. They give it to Malcolm King, and King with second effort. Well, I don't know. They might give it to him, but it looked like he hit the ground before he got first down yardage. Norman Haynes on the tackle. I thought his knee hit, and then he bounced for the first down.
I thought so, too, but you realize the play they just ran was a play that we ran back in 1959 called a double dive. You hit the fullback with the ball, give it to the tailback as he comes around. I haven't seen that play in a long time.
You may not see it again if they didn't get the first down.
They're going to can it.
They bring out the chains. A lot of interested parties in orange and white looking on. And they'll stretch it out. And they got the first down. That is their first down.
All right, here's that double dive action. That's Nate Kelsey, number 1, leading the way. And the tight end, number 81, he did a nice job moving the whole right side or left side of that offensive line. Robert Massey, nice job in there by the tight end.
So the double dive survives to live another day as they got the first down out to the 14-yard line.
But they need more than the double dive.
They do, but at least they still have the football. Still Malcolm King, and well, now see if that's Mays or still Collier in the ball game at tailback. They've switched to Jerry Mays, and Mays trying to get to the outside. Henry Carter strung it out and got him around the ankles, and he did not get much, maybe a yard or two.
Well, at this point in the game, the big difference in the two offenses, Georgia Tech is not able to cut off the linebackers inside. The linebackers are making the stops, whereas on the other side of the football, Clemson is cutting off Georgia Tech's offense. That's why they've had so many yards to gain.
Florida State, which has gotten off to a rocky start, has trouble today with Michigan down 7-0. Second down, 8 for Georgia Tech. In poor field position, deep in its own territory, almost to the 16-yard line. Malcolm King, the fullback, and he is a load as he gets it out to the 19-yard line. A.J. Johnson, the free safety, finally got him on the tackle. But he can be tough. Malcolm King.
They tried to run a counter play or veer type play coming left to right over the right guard, but A.J. Johnson was there to make the stop. They just aren't able to take him out even when they get somebody in their face.
Third down and 5. Mississippi having its problems with Tulane down 10-0. That would be some win for the Green Wave, beating an SEC team. Rick Strom to throw, has protection, and has Gary Lee for the first down. Up across the 25-yard line, A.J. Johnson and Delton Hall could only look on as Gary Lee took the football down low.
It's Gary Lee now as he comes downfield. This is just about the 16th or 17th time in 17 or 18 games this young man on third down is converted. He's unbelievable. Great pass, good catch. 6'1", 193. They list him 6'2", 199, but he has the speed.
First and 10 at the 27. They fake the delay. Strom has time, and he also has a receiver. Bug Isom. Bug Isom. The backup to Gary Lee out of Augusta, Georgia. He is a junior, and that's his first catch of the season. He missed all of last year with a broken collarbone.
Little play action now. Fake to the tailback. Bring the tight end across to clear the linebackers. Find the hole in the middle. There he is, Bug Isom. What a name. You've got to be a receiver with a name like Bug Isom.
15-yard reception for him. Now Georgia Tech has some room to work from their 42. A little bit of misdirection, and Jerry Mays didn't fool anybody. Norman Haynes, the linebacker, right at the line of scrimmage.
I think they're going to have to continue to throw the ball, Gary, because Clemson gives up 226 yards a game.
The thing about ball control football, conservative football, the way Clemson's playing it, and I'm honestly not knocking it off because obviously they're doing a super job, but it looks like they've completely controlled the game. They're only up 2 touchdowns. It's a big play, and you're right back to play away from a tie.
No, that's true, but Clemson's staying in there doing what they're doing best.
Absolutely. Second down and 10 from the 42. I'm just saying Georgia Tech is one play away from being right in the ball game.
Yeah.
They fake the blitz. They come. They pitch it to Jerry Mays, and Mays is hit on a nice hit by Gene Beasley up from the secondary. He got through that first wave, but Beasley got him.
Well, Beasley on a play like that, when you start bringing people, he's going to key in on that tailback. They tossed it out. Beasley had him man-to-man. If he don't make the stop, it's Katie bar the door, and they're back in the game.
Third down and 7. Georgia Tech at its 45-yard line, and this wouldn't be a bad time to look at Gary Lee. You're looking there at David Bell, who's one of the best place kickers in the ACC, if not the nation.
Well, Georgia Tech is in a passing offense.
And Strom will throw. No pass rush. And it is a nice catch downfield inside the 40-yard line for Toby Pearson. He is a junior out of Morristown, Tennessee. That is only his second reception and a very big one, but a flag is down, and we'll see what they say.
I believe we get a late hit here by Johnson. All we have now is a single man-to-man coverage. We look at Strom, sets up well, wide open, looks as though, that's Toby Pearson. Toby Pearson making the grab.
17-yard reception, personal foul against the Tigers. So Georgia Tech will march it down to about the 23.
Georgia Tech now is running the type of offense to be successful against Clemson. Spread them out, take advantage of their weaknesses, Force them if you can to match up man-to-man.
Got to give Georgia Tech credit. They were down 14-0 and started this drive inside their 5-yard line.
And they're hit.
Dead ball, personal foul, defense, first down.
That's 5 penalties for 50 yards against the Tigers. Georgia Tech is yet to be hit. They had a call against them. I believe it was declined. Well, we'll take a timeout here. 14-0 is the score. Clemson on top. Georgia Tech driving, and we'll be back after this word from your local ACC stations. 8:05 to go first half. Georgia Tech on the march. They trail 14-0, but they have it first and 10 inside the 25. Counterplay to Malcolm King, and Malcolm King is hit, and down he goes in the arms of linebacker Scott Enzor, a junior out of Green Sea, South Carolina.
Georgia Tech now is pulling out all of their arsenal, all of their weapons, because they fake back to the right side. They brought Malcolm King over to the left side with the right guard pulling a counter play, trying to hold the linebackers, but it didn't fool Enzor.
Gain of 3, second down 7. The 21-yard line of Clemson is the line of scrimmage. Jerry Mays is the tailback behind Malcolm King. Georgia Tech fans trying to whoop it up as Toby Pearson goes in motion. They pitch it to Mays, and Mays is to the 10 or 15-yard line, and then all the way to the 10. A flag went down, though, and I think we've got some sort of an illegal block. We have a fumble on the play, and the ball was recovered by Clemson, and if the penalty is indeed against Georgia Tech, as you look at Terrence Mack, who recovered the fumble, the Tigers may come out of this with the football. Face mask against Clemson. A.J. Johnson may have been the man who committed the infraction.
Well, from our vantage point, it did look as though A.J. came over and did grab the face mask to pull him down.
Well, that will allow Georgia Tech to keep possession.
That's right. It came before the fumble. Big break for the Tech, the Rambling Wreck.
Danny Ford is saying, what do we do about these penalties? And Bill Curry, I would think, rather relieved at this stage.
What did he say? There will be some improvement.
There has been.
There has been.
Not only are they committing less penalties, but they've found a way to make Clemson commit them all. We'll get the mark off now. Boy, that would have been just heartbreaking. Here's the call.
Face mask by the defense. 15-yard, half a distance penalty. The foul occurred after the fumble. Ball belongs to the team in possession.
I think he was about to say the Rambling Wreck.
Clemson comes with the dog. They bring a lot of linebackers, and this is a good play. Here we missed a tackle. Number 40, Henry Carter, and there's the face mask over top the helmet, but really wasn't intentional, though. He just sort of touched it as he went over top. There it is right there. A.J. Johnson coming over top. His hand sort of got stuck in the mask.
And it looked on that angle as if it was the penalty that caused the fumble.
Yeah.
So it's actually a very just ending to that play. Georgia Tech has it first and 10, or first and goal, actually, at the 7-yard line.
Now down in here, Georgia Tech's not above going play action and trying to hit a receiver or a tight end in the end zone.
Strom to Kelsey. Kelsey hit at the 6 and down at the 5. They got 2. It will be second down and goal. Scott Enzor, the linebacker, on the stop. Under 7 minutes to go first half. Clemson has totally controlled the game until this drive, and Georgia Tech has marched the length of the field just about. They're at the 5-yard line now.
I would gather that Georgia Tech, what they've done well is get the ball in the air to get down this far. I got to go with a pass here to possibly 83, who's lined up on the wing, the third tight end in the game on the left side.
Kelsey and Collier are the backs for Rick Strom. The second man through gets the ball. That's Collier, and he gets nothing. In fact, he may have lost half a yard. Henry Carter, the linebacker, number 40 on the stop for Clemson. He got help from James Earl.
Gary, what'd you say about the double dive? It's history.
No, I said it was still alive because they got the first down.
Well, they try it again. It should be history now. They try it down here on the end zone. They're just not going to run the football. And Henry Carter, he's there. Both of those linebackers, Scott Enzor and Henry Carter, James Earl, they're all playing great inside there.
Georgia Tech has 6 first downs on this drive, but they have a big play now. 3rd and goal from the 5. Toby Pearson in motion. Strom to throw. He flares it out for Nate Kelsey. He'll never get there. Got to the line of scrimmage, and that's all. A.J. Johnson on the stop. And I would think they'll have to take 3 points here, and an almost sure thing with David Bell, your kicker.
Straight drop back, motion right side. He has to go to Nate Kelsey. Nobody open downfield. Clemson a super job. There's the ball to catch. He has no chance to get in. At least they don't lose yardage. And it's either A.J. Johnson who made that stop, or it's Norman Hayes, or it's Henry Carter, Scott Enzor. Those guys are playing a super game.
Well, Georgia Tech will try the field goal. Darrell Gast will hold. It will be a 22-yard attempt for David Bell, who is 3 of 5 on field goals this season. A fake. Gast is a quarterback now. He can throw. Gast is looking, and he flares it up there, and it is caught for a touchdown. Number 81, Robert Massey, the tight end. Robert Massey.
We got a flag, Gary, on the goal line.
Yeah, let's see what this is. The Clemson fans are cheering. They think it's against Georgia Tech. The Tigers motioning that it's against Georgia Tech. A holder, Darrell Gast, who is the backup quarterback, did not exactly throw a tight spiral, but Massey caught it, but it will go for naught.
He really made the only play he could.
Ineligible receiver downfield on the offense. 4th down.
Well, that's a shame, and I don't say that from a Georgia Tech fan standpoint, but from the game standpoint. It was an exciting play, and now they will have to try again, and I suspect this time Mr. Gast will do what he's expected to do and allow David Bell to kick it.
That's what will happen. That play took so long to develop. Somebody had to be downfield, and the officials called it.
27-yard attempt, and the kick is good. So David Bell hits his 4th field goal of the season, and after the exciting play, the fake that goes for naught because of the penalty, we get 3 points for Georgia Tech. 5:28 to go in the first half. It is Clemson 14, Georgia Tech 3, and we'll be back to Grant Field after this.
Here's that play, the fake field goal with Gast, the backup quarterback, coming outside. We get a illegal man downfield. Really a good pass to Robert Massey, the junior tight end. Gene Beasley's all over him. He had to bring the ball over, but it took too long for it to materialize. Officials call an extra guy downfield.
Excellent concentration by Massey as well to catch the ball, but they do get the 3 points from David Bell. It's a long drive, 8 up better than 6 minutes on the clock, and David Bell converts on the field goal. Thomas Palmer, the sophomore kicker out of Miami, Florida, will put the ball in play.
Gary, here's an idea. Clemson has allowed Georgia Tech 15 rushing plays, and on 11 of them they've gained 3 yards or less.
That tells you part of the story. Although that was a pretty nice drive.
Well, they had the pass going for them a little bit, too.
There are your deep backs that you saw, Griffin and Rulak. Palmer hits a squib kick through the hands of Lancaster, picked up by Rulak. Now at the 15. Now at the 30, and now has only a couple of Georgia Tech players to beat, and Palmer, the kicker, made a great tackle. I mean to tell you, you'd never know that was the kicker. That was a great tackle.
He stood in there like the coach would say, all right, we get a nice kick here to Rulak. He follows the wall right side. Here, look at it. He got 6 guys in front of him. Palmer, though, watch him square up, get his head up. Bloody nose and all, put his shoulder in there, bring him down. A lot of guys run off the field. He doesn't. He makes the tackle.
Well, I guess that's how the kickers in Miami, Florida do it. Some tackle for Palmer. Clemson still sets up shop at their 49-yard line. Tracy Johnson is the fullback. Tracy Johnson gets the football, cracks helmets with one of the defenders, and then Paul Jurgensen brings him down at the 47-yard line. He got about 3.5 yards.
Play should have been stopped. Probably John Porter, a freshman linebacker, number 45, came in, made the initial hit, but he lost it. He was all clear. Nobody blocked him, but he didn't make the tackle.
All Terrence Rulak has done on 2 kickoff returns is go 120 yards. He'll be up among the national leaders, I think, in stats before he's done on that. That's Rulak to the far side in the slot.
You're right, Gary.
This time Williams Keats has a big hole and gets to the 39-yard line. Porter, the linebacker, brought him down with help from Reginald Rutland, the cornerback. It will be third down. A lot of good-looking people in Atlanta. That's no surprise.
That's no surprise. We saw a lot of them as we walked around yesterday.
There's Rodney Williams. Still developing, only a sophomore. First down at the 39. In motion, that was Ray Williams. This is Steve Griffin, and Griffin to the 31-yard line. Paul Jurgensen again on the stop, and we still have yet to see Kenny Flowers. I don't know if he's hurt or just what the story is. Did not look hurt in practice yesterday, but obviously Clemson not looking to go out of their way to tell us that he would not play. And
all right, here's a good look at the secondary. 5 DBs they play with, 2 linebackers. The linebacker on the right side, he has got to react a lot quicker. He's going to get busted just like he did then.
Second down and 2 from the 31. Tracy Johnson got close to the first down marker. The nose guard, Jeff Mathis, on the tackle.
On first down, Clemson 13 times they've rushed the football, and they've only had to throw 2 passes. But they sure look good. Their game plan, what they came in here to do, they're really doing a job with it. Georgia Tech, though, they've got to get it up, Gary. They're just sort of waiting. They're not playing a physical game. Maybe it's because Clemson's too big.
At Georgia Tech defense will have to pay rent on this field. They've been out there almost the entire way.
Yeah, I can imagine they'll be after that offense if they don't start getting the ball downfield a little more.
This is pretty close, about an inch. So it'll be third down and just that far to go for the Tigers. Not a promising position for the Georgia Tech defense.
Well, this would be a great play on third down this time of the ball game. Little play action fake, go deep, but I've been wrong so far. Might as well be wrong again. I'd love to see it. Because your fourth down area.
Clemson's 4 of 5 on third down conversions, and they're now 5 of 6. Boy, that showed you that Clemson offensive line surged about 2 or 3 yards on the sneak.
Watch them here now. They're going to beat them off the ball. Jeff Bach, the center, the quarterback, Rodney Williams, over 61, Phillips, DeUlius on the right side, Pat Williams, a sophomore, another sophomore, Ty Granger. They're just playing like pros.
Kudos to our camera people. Did you see John Phillips fire up and Williams riding him like a pony? He was right behind him.
Right in the action.
First and 10. On the pitch, Flagler in the grasp of the Rover back, Andre Thomas. Thomas grabbed a hold of the ankle and said, I don't think you're going anywhere without this.
That's what the Rover back is there to do. He's got to come up, play the run quickly, which he did, Thomas did, and yet at the same time has to be smart enough to know when it's passed so he doesn't get beat deep.
He will get credit for a tackle for loss because it'll be second down and 12. They lost 2 on that play. The ball just inside the 30. Well, only 2:40 to go. Sorry, Roman.
Sorry, Gary. The big question now, will they pass?
Well, second and 12, a lot of teams would. That doesn't mean they will.
That's right. They'll probably run a draw.
Ray Williams in motion. They run a draw to Flagler. Flagler at the 25. Andre Thomas rode him down at the 21. And why not? They got close to the first down.
That's right. And they had success earlier in the game when they were in the same situation, running the sprint draw. Terrence Flagler. What a game he's having. Rodney Williams just straight back. Flagler reads the left side of the line. Linebackers drop deep. It's a good play, especially when it works.
Third down and 3. Interesting call here. Would not surprise me to see the fake to the fullback and maybe a pitch to Flagler or Griffin or whoever the tailback is on the play. So I figure if you can call the plays, maybe I can get one.
It'd be a good call. No, it would be a good call.
Well, apparently they're going to call timeout and talk about it. We have 1:53 to go in the first half, and it is 14-3. The Tigers on top. And a decision to be made as far as what Clemson will do on this play. And you're seeing some of the, well,
what is it?
Pageantry of college football? I don't know.
The guy says, pass the ball, I'm bored.
Well, there are a lot of Georgia Tech fans here and a lot of Clemson fans. They expected about 47,000. That Clemson Tiger has to do push-ups for all the points they scored, so I don't know who he's rooting for when Clemson's on offense.
He must be the size of one of those defensive giants the Tigers have.
He'll be the size of one of the cornerbacks by the time he's done doing those push-ups today.
That's a lot of push-ups.
There's Bill Curry.
What a player, what a coach, what a guy this man's been.
You played in the NFL with him.
And he was with Green Bay. Lombardi was on 2 National Football League championship teams, 2 Super Bowl teams in Baltimore with Shula. He's been around and brings a lot of presence and character to the Georgia Tech program.
We're looking at a 3rd down and 3 situation. Clemson leads 14-3. They have the football at the 21-yard line of Georgia Tech, and they had called timeout to decide what they will do here as we continue to look at some of the happy faces here at Grant Field. Well, we're ready to go now. Clemson up to the line of scrimmage as Danny Ford looks on. We'll see what they've come up with. That is Riggs, the tight end, switching positions on the line. They gave it to the fullback, and Tracy Johnson got the first down. Rod Stevens, the linebacker, brought him down, but not before. Johnson easily got the first down to the 14-yard line.
They were playing a guessing game on that Clemson sideline. It would have been an option. He hands it to fullback, Tracy Johnson. Rod Stevens comes across. Big hole. And they sort of outguessed him. Even though they'd been doing that, I think Tech was playing for the pitch.
Flagler is the tailback right now. He gets the football, gets to the 15, running behind Johnson, gets to the 10. Paul Jurgensen made the stop. A nice job by Flagler of using his blocker, Johnson, until he could figure out where he wanted to go and got some extra yardage.
What he does so well, boy, he got somebody hurt going off the field over here, but what Flagler does so doggone well is he gets his shoulder squared to the line of scrimmage, and now he can go either way with the football, left or right, and then go straight ahead, too.
2nd down and 6 for Clemson. They already lead 14-3. We go under the minute mark in the first period, and Tracy Johnson got to the 8-yard line before Jeff Mathis, the nose guard, brought him down. Clock moving now, but Clemson certainly has time with 48 and 47 counting down.
And I think they have all their timeouts left, too, I believe, don't they, Gary? Or 2. No, they have 2.
a lot of time, though, when they're inside the 10-yard line. At least it would be for most teams. They like to run the football. It's not as much for them.
They could run the clock out on one run.
3rd down. Tracy Johnson, the lone back, left in. Flagler lined up as the wing back, and what now? Timeout, Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech.
Well, they're not worried about the clock. They just want to regroup.
Yep.
So we will regroup as well. 14-3 is the score. It is favor of Clemson, and we'll be back with more ACC football after this. At the conclusion of today's game, we'll be selecting a Poland most valuable player from each team. In addition to recognizing our 2 MVPs, Poland will donate a $500 scholarship to the General Scholarship Fund of both schools. Rodney Williams on a big 3rd down play, throwing for Ray Williams, corner of the end zone. He's overthrown and incomplete. That was Don Wilson covering on the play for Georgia Tech, but it'll bring up 4th down, and the Tigers will try to get back the field goal. David Bell pinned on them a little while ago.
Actually, you could expect that call because Clemson had run the ball 15 times inside the 20 prior to that play with no passing plays. It was a fake toss to the right side, looked like a run, but Georgia Tech was there to make the coverage. Good call, good defense, though, better defense.
David Treadwell was 17 of 24 last year. He's 1 of 2 this year. Todd Schonar will hold for a 25-yard attempt. He won the game at Georgia last week with a 46-yarder. And the officials not quite content with the way things were set. No, Georgia Tech wants to call time and, give Treadwell time to think about this one? This is not your basic pressure kick, really, is it?
No, I wouldn't think so. Not for this young man. He's got a good leg, especially from this area. And again, we got a quarterback holding here for Clemson, number 10, Schonar. You think maybe? No, I don't.
I doubt it also. I think they're just going to get back those 3 points.
Yeah.
That David Bell put on them. Boy, Bill Curry is, I don't know. I don't think he's probably going to be all that distressed if he goes out 14-3, considering the way this thing started. Here's what's coming up at halftime. ACC champions. And we'll talk to a very lovely young lady from Georgia Tech. Delta 1 for the books, and the Jefferson Pilot scoreboard. And that 1 for the books, I'll look back at a great Clemson-Georgia Tech game from a couple of years ago. I was about to say that, really, with the 80-yard kickoff return by Rulak to start the game, Clemson was on Georgia Tech right from the outset. They're almost fortunate to be as close as they are.
No, I have to agree with you, Garrett. Ooh, look at here. We got a little different lineup, but they're going to bring them on back here.
I've never figured. You'll explain after this, of course, why they do that. Schonar will hold. 25-yard attempt for Treadwell. This is close, but I think he got it. Yep. Inside the upright, hit the scoreboard and bounded back, but 17-3 now. Clemson on top with just 22 seconds remaining in the first half. Why do they do that?
A lot of times, some used to. Very seldom now do teams when they divide their kicking team. They put the center, the holder, and the snapper. A lot of times they'll leave a guy uncovered on one side or the other, and then they'll snap the ball back and run it in for the touchdown, or have a guy free standing out there in the end zone, and that's why they give it a shot. I've seen teams make the mistake, though, even though you know it's coming at you.
9 times out of 10 when you see it, though, it's just to give the defense something extra to think about.
Trying to tire out Georgia Tech's defense, even though they're already tired.
Boy, I tell you, they really are. 17-3 the score. Clemson will get the football, or Georgia Tech will get the football, I should say, after the field goal by David Treadwell. Clemson has controlled the first half with running plays. How did you feel as a quarterback when you were running an offense like this? Did it frustrate you not getting a chance to throw, or did they never use that when you were the quarterback?
Well, when we came in college at North Carolina State, we threw the ball 15 times maybe a game. People thought that was a lot, and back then it was. But it wasn't sophisticated like it is now. You got so many receivers you can go to. Then you look for one guy. If he wasn't open, run it and get smashed. But nowadays, they can go to 1, 2, 3 real quick, make that decision in less than 3 seconds, try to get something done.
There's Corey Collier and Gary Lee, who would like to get something done on the kickoff return team for Georgia Tech. Rusty Sile will kick it off for Clemson. There you see Rusty.
Number 19.
Only 22 seconds remaining first half. The squib kick, not a bad idea in this situation. Fumbled around. Georgia Tech with the football now across the 30, and across the 32-yard line goes Charles Mack, reserve fullback out of Decatur, Georgia. And only 17 seconds remain to be played in the first half.
Gary, we did this. It was close to the halftime when I was with. We did the same thing when I was with the Rams, because close to halftime we didn't want to kick the ball to Dick Gordon, who was leading the league. The ball went to Dick Butkus in the wedge. He turned around, tossed it to Dick Gordon. He ran 86 yards for a touchdown.
Butkus probably threw a block somewhere in there as well.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You know he did.
First down for Georgia Tech. They only have 17 seconds, and they will play it safe. Nate Kelsey, the fullback. Dwayne Walker, the linebacker, made the stop for Clemson. And Georgia Tech going to take the halftime to regroup. They are down 14 points, and they will just let the clock run out. Very impressive show by the Clemson offense. Roman, Georgia Tech's got some regrouping to do.
Well, they sure do. They've got to have, when they come back out, they've got to come at them a little bit more physical and a little bit quicker.
All right, so that is the story as Georgia Tech and Clemson head for the locker rooms. You see the score, the Tigers leading by 14 as we break for these words. Gary Sparber back with Roman Gabriel, Atlantic Coast Conference football on Jefferson Pilot Teleproductions. And we are looking at the renewal of an outstanding rivalry. Clemson and Georgia Tech, they really go at it, although the Tigers have had the better of it today.
They sure have. Georgia Tech's in that halftime locker room trying to figure out what to do with Clemson. And I think what they will do is come out and try to avoid being pushed around, because Clemson's bigger, but they're pushing Georgia Tech around.
Now, 2 years ago, these teams got together, and it was a ball game where Clemson had a 20-game unbeaten streak going, and Georgia Tech, well, they were just looking for a bit of respectability, and that's the subject of this week's Delta One for the Books.
Airline of ACC country is proud to bring you another ACC football One for the Books. Delta gets you there. Clemson came to Atlanta in 1984, still smarting from a last-minute loss to Georgia the week before. Georgia Tech was riding the momentum of 2 victories, and the Yellow Jackets thwarted an early Clemson drive as Cleve Pounds recovered a Stacy Driver fumble. Bidding to snap a 20-game Clemson ACC winning streak, Tech took a 6-0 lead in the first quarter on 2 David Bell field goals. Then quarterback John Dewberry went to work, tossing a 39-yard pass to tight end Gary Wilkins at the Clemson 3. It took a couple of plays, but Tech fullback Keith Glanton took it in from a yard out, and with a successful 2-point conversion tacked on, Tech had a 14-0 lead. Then Cleve Pounds made his second big play of the half. The junior Rover back picked off a Mike Epley aerial and put the Tech offense back in business near midfield. Dewberry then rubbed salt in the Clemson wound. He hit Wilkins for a 2-yard touchdown, and Tech led Danny Ford's Tigers 21-0 at the half. Clemson was far from beaten, though. Epley hit Ray Butler to get Clemson on the board quickly, and then Steve Griffin went 20 yards in the opening minute of the fourth quarter to pull the Tigers within 7. With 10 minutes still left, Epley hit Terrence Rulak, and it was a brand-new ball game. Tech moved the ball to midfield, and then punter Mike Snow pinned Clemson back on its own 3-yard line with 7 minutes left. A 44-yard punt that was likely the key play of the game. It was up to the Yellow Jacket defense then, and Clemson could move the ball only to its 11. Tech would have the ball back with a chance to win it. The Yellow Jackets went on a 54-yard time-consuming drive, one that included a marvelous Robert Levette 13-yard run to the Tiger 1-yard line. The domination of 12th-ranked Clemson over the ACC was about to end. 2 plays later, fullback Chuck Easley scored with just 33 seconds left on the clock. Georgia Tech won 28-21, a landmark victory in Tech's climb to football respectability. This has been another ACC One for the Books, brought to you by Delta. Delta gets you there.
Our score here, 17-3. Clemson on top in this year's rivalry game. We'll be back with more at halftime after this.
The Jefferson Pilot Scoreboard, brought to you by the Jefferson Pilot Companies.
Our score here, Clemson on top of Georgia Tech, 17-3. The Tigers have really controlled most of the first half. Now let's take a look at the Jefferson Pilot Scoreboard. Pittsburgh on top of West Virginia, 28-10. Pittsburgh rolling in that one.
There we have Tulane in the second quarter. They're up on Mississippi 10-0.
Florida State with a very tough assignment today against Bo Schembechler's crew. Hanging tough, though, the Wolverines on top 7-3 in the second period.
Baylor, who was beaten last week. Baylor 12, Texas Tech nothing. That's in the first quarter.
And your halftime scores are brought to you by the Jefferson Pilot Companies. Well, Roman, it is supposed to be physically tough to be a football player. It is not supposed to be physically tough to be a football coach. Is it? When you were a player in the NFL, did you ever see a coach get hurt?
Well, I've seen some pass out because it was so hot. George Allen, for instance, in Arizona, he wanted to practice at 1 o'clock when it's 115 degrees. He passed out, so we started practicing at night.
Well, that is not what happened last week in Tallahassee, North Carolina's Dick Crum found out about the perils of coaching, and during the week he told us exactly what happened.
I never saw it coming. I had looked up the field because we had thrown the ball, and it was a kind of an isolated shot because one of their linebackers shoved our tailback into me, and it was just a single guy coming out to get me. It wasn't a whole lot of players, and you know, usually when a mob comes at you, you can kind of sense it, but I never saw it.
Coach, I thought one of the funniest comments that came out of the whole thing was Lee Clearman said it happened early enough in the season they can redshirt. You going to be redshirted?
Get another year's eligibility.
Coach Dick Crum of North Carolina still, though, valiantly doing it on the sideline. 17-3, Clemson over Georgia Tech, and we'll be back to Grant Field after these words from your local ACC stations.